Hi, I'm Marion Vasseur Raluy and I'm the curator of the show.
And I'm Kinke Kooi.
So Kinke, I would like to know, how did you start working and since when?
I finished my art school at 1985, and since then I'm working actually. But I went through a whole process of stages. I actually started with big landscapes and a big gesture, and then I realized why do I have to do the big gesture and have to make a big distance. And the moment I had a big distance, I became insecure. So I decided I stopped to take distance from my work. So I went sitting on the table and then I started drawing. And because I was drawing, it becomes more intimate. And then later I found out that if you make a big gesture, it's about distance as well. And if you make really tiny works, it's about intimacy. And I really liked to be involved in stuff and not to be critical and take a distance. And at that time, when I finished school, it was very much about that. So that's how I started drawing, actually.
There is a very important notion in your work, which is immanence.
Yeah.
And I felt that in a sense it's also connected to the moment where you started to work, like you said, in 1985, and when it was mostly men who were presented and represented in the art worlds. Could you explain a little bit this notion that is really important?
Yeah, at the moment I was at school, and sometimes I put it in my work as well, with the notion of immanence. I was really serious to be an artist, and then I felt I was not really part of it. I looked like it, but I wasn't. I wasn't a man. So then that woke me up, and I realized that there are many shapes, which actually there was a dictate of good taste happening. And some shapes I really like decoration and flowers and such kind of things, were not allowed. So when I finished art school, because at art school I worked with landscapes and a big gesture, I found out, no, I want these shapes. And at that time, I didn't get any grant, I didn't get anything. So I thought, well, maybe if nobody wants me, I can do exactly what I want. So that's when I figured out what I really liked. And that was the drawing, that was the little elements like very big shapes against very tiny shapes, and that gave a kind of spatial feeling. And I think it's a classic in art, like the Chinese big mountain and the tiny boat. And you see it a lot, and it gives a bodily feeling. So I really try to aim to that bodily feeling of working, and not to the critical eye, you know. And there is, if you are bodily, and my work is very tactile, it's in touch, but it's also the critical eye is about hygiene. But in touch you get involved and you can get dirty of it, and involvement has all these connotations.
And when you talk about immanence, you said this idea of water in water.
Yeah.
And some of your work, we can see that some shapes, like the flowers or the fruits, are living in their own bubble.
Yeah, indeed. Bataille says immanence is water in water, and I really liked it. First, I liked the idea of immanence, but it's all the same. So it's about exclusion as well. So I really start playing with it. I liked it because I love to. Once I hear a word and I like it, I start thinking about it. So I thought maybe a pot of jam with only strawberries. It's strawberry in strawberry, so it's immanent. But I realized sometimes when I'm in my studio, it's really Kinke in Kinke. And it's very imminent as well. So it's about exclusion. But also the world I was in at that time at the art, it was really man in man. And certain kind of shapes in certain kind of shapes. And they were not my shapes. So I try to visually figure out how does that look and how can you be aware of yourself when you're water in water. And that's why I draw a flower in the same kind of flower. And I call it self-reflection. But outside there's the whole world and it's pluriform, so much shapes going on. And I like that, you know, in a way a city is people in people and it's very excluding the nature. So when I'm at my studio, I love to be there, but when I go to the nature, I see all these shapes and bees and animals and there's so much and you can look for such a long time to different shapes. So I try to combine these now.
Maybe I think something very interesting as well in your work is the way you do it in the studio. So could you explain a little bit the materials you're using, how you draw and paint as well?
Yeah. Well, since I decided to draw, I first started with a very limited material, just pencil, because I was too overwhelmed by all the choices I could have. So I painted the backside with color, because I wanted to have color. So I colored the paper, and then I found out that maybe it would be nice to do a gradient in it. So I first paint the gradient, and I see the gradient as well as a very symbolic thing, because one thing bleeds into another thing. And mostly people say you should be clear and strict, but I love the bleeding in, like man going into woman and nature goes into other stuff, because you see many kinds of species change very slightly. I love that thing. And then I start drawing on it and I fill in the spaces, because I love that filling in. And that's why I'm working to the edges of the paper, because for me it's very difficult to stop. And I promised myself, you should not be troubled by that. Just go on as long as you want, and you always can erase it. And that takes away this feeling that you should be a talent and make the right gesture and then know when to stop. So I comfort myself with that. But later on I found out actually the paper is a vessel for me. So it holds the drawing, and I see that as a womb element in it as well.
I also guess the public can guess easily where do you find your inspiration while just looking at your work. But you told me once that you also go sometimes to your garden just to find inspiration. So it's a simple question, but where do you find your inspiration?
Yeah, it's actually, I think the sympathy of shape is a very important word for me. So because I was so lonely, and at the time I was at school, and there was this dictate of good taste, I felt very lonely in my recognition. And later on I found the word visual loneliness, because I think the society takes away shapes for you. So I trained myself to look at shapes I like. So sometimes I'm very stupid. For example, a Q-tip. I feel so much, it's so beautiful, I feel so much love for it. So I find a way to use it in my work. And that's also with, in nature, then I see the pansy. I love it so much, it's such a beautiful flower with so much colors bleeding into each other. And then I start training myself to know how to approach that flower. So actually, to be honest, I have the strawberry, I'm very good at it. Because the wild strawberries, they have these little bulby elements, and it's very tactile. There's this big urge to touch it. So I trained myself to draw the strawberry. I'm very good at the pansy now. And now I'm training myself for some insects. I love to. But for the rest, I do flowers as well, with a lot of folds and drapes, because I like them and they are fantasy flowers. And for me, I'm allowed to use fantasy and reality through each other in a way that's a word I like very much. It's the break of style. You know, you always should stay in your style, but I love to do the break of style and just put a little collage in it. So, that's how I feel. Actually, the sympathy of shapes is the big inspiration for me.
And there's something also very specific in your work when you look at it, is that you can have very different distance from it.
Yeah.
So you can look at it from afar.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get closer, you can see so many details.
Yeah.
So there's a connection between macro and micro in your work that is really important.
Yeah,
too.
very important. Yeah. And you said once it's like this book with all little drawings, and I love children
find,
books.
I guess.
Yeah, you can find stuff. And I once read about a woman who was painting. They wrote a long time ago. It's not so fairy tale like for children and women. And I thought, so women are naive as well. And I thought, maybe I'm gonna emancipate that.
Yeah.
I love children books. I love the zooming in. But I really think it's the reality. You know, you always see the big picture, and then you have to zoom in. And the further you zoom in, the more you see, and it never stops. And it was people. First you see the picture, and then the personality comes, and then how they dress themselves. And there's so much information everywhere. So I love to put that in my work.
And maybe to finish, so you're invited in this show to be in dialogue with the collection of the CAPC around this idea of Pollen. It's the name of the show. How do your work resonates with the show? I when I was invited, I was really happy because I love the title pollination. You know, it's already, the word is about so much, and I always work with the idea of the hospitality of the flower, but also the hospitality of the house. But these are all gates that welcome you. And there is a hoary element in it, and I don't think it is hoary, but it's history start calling it hoary. But if you talk about the flowers and the bees, you know, I don't know if you have it in France to explain the sexual information to your children. Do you call it the flower and the bees? No, it's even weirder. It's a bird with a bag.
Oh, that's But to explain how people get fertilized, they use the flower and the bees. And it's funny because the bee is always a woman, and the flower is considered a woman. So it's in a way imminent as well, woman in woman. And I think that's funny. But I love to look at flowers, and every bee is welcome. You know, it's there and very beautiful, and everybody is allowed to come in. And I think, fertility is about so much. And again, in my study, you didn't talk about fertility. And actually in philosophy, you don't talk about fertility. And it's a crazy thing that it's left out of the discussion and visualized as well. There were periods with pregnant women, but it's left out of the discussion. So I decided to talk about fertility a lot, and even when I teached, I took the point of view of explaining things in fertility. And yeah, the children are not used to that it is a part of our discussion as well. So yeah, I felt very much at home at the...
Maybe to end the conversation, you could talk about this specific piece that we can see in the show, where in your work is really a statement. Is this work called art approach, soft approach?
Yeah.
Where we can see a flower and a bee.
Yeah. It's a bee and a flower and a sword and a wound. Mm-hmm. And it is a diptych. And the flower is really shaped towards the bee, and the bee is really shaped towards the flower. And I think that's a real a symbol of hospitality. You know, you shape yourself towards each other, which is the opposite of individuality. You know, because individuality, it's just you and you don't need anybody. And I think my work is very much about dependency. That's why I use creepers, because they need a tree to stand on. And construction is considered as independent. And I love to draw about dependency. And actually the sword is independent. I decide, I make a cut in you. You know, there is no dual question in it. But the wound is also the stigma of Jesus, which considered the wound where the Christianity came out of it, the vulva. So it's a big part of appropriation as well. Mm-hmm. But it's such a wide, one-sided attitude, which is a result of individuality, I think. Mm-hmm. And I love to put them next to each other to see how it looks.
Thank you, Kinke.
Okay.